Hey guys, so as you can kind of see from the screen here, the Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred Spiritborn reveal was just announced today. Unfortunately, I have a job, so I wasn't able to react to this live, but I'm here. I just got out of work and I thought I would just react to this. Maybe you guys have already seen you've watched this whole thing already, and you just want someone to react to with you, or maybe you want to watch it through a reaction. Who knows? I don't know. I'm super psyched. I'm super excited. This should be really cool. I got a nice little smoothie drink with me to sip on while we watch this. Mm. And yeah, let's get right into it. And I guess one perk of not watching this live is I don't have to watch this countdown here. I just want to make sure I don't miss anything here. Excuse me. Oh, and so of course, they played the cinematic. I already have a video reacting to that, so let's just get right into uh, here. Oops. Oh boy. Here, I think that's where we start. Let's begin. So, grab a drink, grab some food, and enjoy this with me. Let's do this. I'm super excited.
Hello, Diablo community. I'm Adam Fletcher, Community
Hello.
Director for Diablo. Welcome to our Spiritborn Showcase, where we're doing
Oh,
a
I'm
deep
even wearing
dive for this
green. I'm dressed for
all-new
the
class
occasion.
coming to Diablo 4, which
That
will
wasn't
include
planned,
a series of
but
interviews
just
followed
in
by
a
Q&A from Twitch
sweatshirt.
chat. I'm joined here today with Game Director Brent Gibson.
Thanks, Adam. We've been working hard to make something unique for Diablo, and
Make
we're
sure this is
finally
high
here
quality.
to actually
It is
talk
not.
about it.
For
Brent,
shame.
I can remember us at
There we
BlizzCon
go.
where we showed off our very first cinematic for Vessel of Hatred. Now we're actually here to showcase the Spiritborn for the first time.
Oh
We're
boy.
glad to have you back for the full reveal.
I hope it's more
Thanks.
cinematics
We've set out
and
to make an all-new class
gameplay.
that comes from the jungles of Nahantu, an
Yes.
apex predator with a deep connection to the spirit realm. So, without further ado,
Spirit
let's kick
realm.
off this deep dive to the
Interesting.
Spiritborn.
Oh, cinematic. Here we go.
Only a few among my people can become Spiritborn. As children, the most
Water.
promising face judgment in the mist. Our
Okay.
trial begins and ends with pain. Those who are not called are culled.
Oh shit, people are dying. Okay.
For the
Good.
weak,
Keeping it
all paths end here.
Diablo-like. I like that.
For the worthy, that path leads to power beyond compare.
I like the voice
And
actor.
a sacred charge to wield it well. Though the mortal world was designed to break us. Our
Getting like
hearts,
Avatar vibes.
our minds,
Ooh.
our bodies.
Okay, Jaguar makes sense.
There is another, which makes us bold. We
So
are
spirits,
without
very nice.
fear.
He's melee oriented.
We are without equal.
Damn, very nice.
We walk with the
Oh,
ancient
shit.
guardians
That's,
of the unformed lands.
What is that? That's
Their power
a centipede.
is
Okay,
our power.
that's different.
Their cause is our cause. We forge unbreakable bonds in the spirit realm to defeat the
damn.
horrors of this one. For we are spirit.
Oh, well, hold on. Okay. Oh shit, a gorilla. Oh man. Okay, if I have to pick a spirit, I'm picking gorilla for sure. I think. Very nice. Very cool entrance here. Oh, okay, gameplay. Okay, tiger looks cool too. Damn, or panther. Lightning, I guess that's okay, bird or eagle. Okay, eagle warrior makes sense. That's Aztec. I think, yeah. I was not expecting a centipede. Okay, holy shit. Okay, I think centipede's gonna be the like fan favorite. I'm assuming. Oh, yeah, dude, King Kong, man. Holy shit, that was sick. Oh my god. All right,
Wow, and there it is.
I'm not gonna
the
pause.
first look at the Spiritborn, the apex
Gonna be
predator
too long.
from the jungle.
It's already an hour video.
Awesome to finally show it off, and what an incredible trailer.
Damn, that was.
To talk more about the Spiritborn, we
Wizard
would like
makes
to
hype
introduce
videos.
Eleni Rivera-Colon, narrative designer on
Okay.
Diablo 4. Welcome, Eleni.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here to talk about the Spiritborn class. I'm
I like the
also
shirt.
a little nervous.
It's okay. We're live. We're
I'd be
doing
nervous
this
too.
live
Everyone's
here
going
for
to be
everyone.
complaining it's not a
But
paladin.
obviously, Eleni, we just saw here in the trailer with
That
the
background is sick.
Spiritborn, and we saw a little bit about that spirit realm. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that spirit realm is?
Yeah, so I mean, to put it plainly, the spirit realm is a place where spirits go. It's this deeply spiritual place that's a byproduct of Sanctuary's
Excuse me.
creation. So, as you may know, the angels have the high heavens, the demons have the burning hells, and we have the
Is
spirit
the
realm.
spirit realm?
You know,
Is that a
we're
retcon?
hearing
I
a
don't
little
know.
bit
I know
about
the Diablo
high
lore pretty
heavens
well, but
and the burning hells here, and players have actually seen both of those places specifically. Kind of like, what does the spirit realm actually look like for players?
I'm not
Yeah,
familiar
you know, we
that
really
was
love this concept
canon.
that the spirit realm is shaped by humanity. So if that's the case, the
Okay.
foundation of that would actually be Sanctuary. So you could imagine being in the middle
Ooh,
of the
that's pretty
jungle when
artwork.
you're surrounded by these tall trees and these ancient structures.
So they are very
And
shamany.
when you
Like if you
cross
think of
over
WoW,
the
they're more
veil into the
spirits
spirit realm,
than
you're going to see a ghostly reflection
animal
of
like
just
druid,
that.
I guess.
The big key difference is that you're going to see all the spirits and the creatures that exist there.
Yeah, there are these massive creatures that protect the realm from spirits or they protect the realm and the spirits from corruption. So the Spiritborn class have this harmonious bond and connection with these massive creatures that are called the Spirit Guardians, and they work together toward the land.
Ooh,
You
look
know,
at this
it's
artwork.
awesome to hear about the spirit
So,
guardians.
jaguar,
and, people saw them
centipede,
in the trailer a little bit there.
eagle,
Can you actually tell
gorilla.
us a little bit more about
Avatar of
who these
animals.
spirit guardians are?
Interesting.
Yeah, so if the spirit realm is shaped by humanity, we love the idea that the guardians are formed from human belief. And so if you're
Okay.
trying to survive in the jungle and protection is a thing that you are pouring all of your belief, your hope
Artwork's
into,
really cool.
that belief it's magical. It's got power in itself, and it can actually create a creature that represents that. It could represent protection.
Yeah, so as Brent is saying,
like
the
the
Spirit
gorilla?
Guardians are this complex creation of Sanctuary's creation along with this powerful human belief. And Spiritborns devote their entire lives strengthening this incredible bond because these Spirit Guardians are powerful. It's this idea, right, of what these gods look like. And so they can help protect both the realm and the Hantu.
You know, we saw in
right.
the trailer and some of the gameplay, people were, you know, if you're playing the Spiritborn, you can actually summon one of these in there. Is that something you can do on demand? Like, how does that work?
It's like a spirit
Yeah, you know,
summoner.
very early on in
Sort of.
concepting, we saw this one piece of a simple warrior raising their staff
Wow,
above
yeah,
their head, and
that's
this
pretty badass.
massive
That's a snake.
spirit creature forming behind them, and that really
I love the
became
aesthetic,
lightning
by the
rod
way.
to
I think
lot
that's
of
such a cool
thought-provoking
concept.
Ideas. I mean, we knew
Witch
what we
Doctor
wanted
was more
to do
African-American,
mechanically with the class,
like African
but
theme. This is
that
more
image really
South American.
solidified that the idea of
theme.
summoning a god into battle was really
aesthetics
cool, and that
was.
actually became the cornerstone for a lot of our development from then on out.
Yeah, so talking about Spirit Guardians and summoning them, the Spiritborn class can summon 4 Spirit Guardians.
Okay, we saw
the
those.
first one that I want to talk about is Rizoka, and this
Oh, they
guardian
have names.
manifests in the form
Rizoka.
of a jaguar.
What,
so
that's like
the
part
belief
gorilla,
of
part-
courage and
Look at those
ferocity,
biceps on
striking
the
on
jaguar.
hunt, attacking a
That's
kill
sick,
with no
though.
fear or reservations.
That's pretty badass.
The second one is Balazan, appearing as this massive centipede. The
Balagon.
belief is balance and persistence. So although some people might see it as fear,
Oh, okay.
it represents harmony and balance, so the give and take of life.
It's giving me like Attack on
And then we
Titan
have
vibes. You know that
Quatli,
little
the manifestation
centipede?
of this is a majestic eagle, right?
Eagle.
So to represent awareness and finesse, soaring above it all, having keen awareness of its surroundings, and acting with intent.
Gotcha.
And then the last one is Woomba. This guardian
Woomba.
manifests in a powerful
His name's
gorilla,
Harambe.
so this beacon of
Okay, gorilla looks
protection
cool to
and
me. I always like the bigger.
and a movable
I like the big
force
buff
that holds
fighters.
its ground and sustains under
Yeah.
pressure.
So
what
it's
he
great
does.
because we've heard a little bit about the spirit realm. We've heard about these 4 awesome guardians. Like, can you tell us a little bit more about kind of the star of the show now, the Spiritborn itself?
Yeah, so I think before we really dive in, I want to talk about Akarat, who's really important with the Spiritborn and the Spirit Realm. For those
Is
who
he?
don't know, Akarat is this prophet that believed in the human experience and that it gives us this unique power. We have this light within us.
thought he
And
was
that
like
light
a-
gives us the ability to question and to
How do you
doubt
let the
and to
paladins and the
challenge.
crusaders?
When Akarat made his way to his mother's homeland in Nahantu, he felt this strong otherworldly presence, and he would spend a lot of time with one of his apostles, Isavete, trying to uncover what this mystery was. What was this feeling when he got to the realm, or when he got to the land of
My lore
Nahantu?
isn't 100%.
Until he
so-
eventually discovers this veil, and that's the veil between the spirit realm and sanctuary. And he realized that this was this untouched place from neither angels or demons. They had never really had any sort of influence there. So Akarat and his dedicant Isavete would spend a lot of time studying, and he would be the first person and living being to cross this veil. And
Is the
then
spirit
after
realm
Akarat
mentioned in a
died,
book?
his apostle would then take on the mantle and
not
then
sure.
found the Spiritborn traditions that we know today.
I'm
You know,
not very
hearing
familiar
about the
with it.
Spiritborn, and of course, like I'm sure this is a burning question from the community, but the Sanctuary has a long and storied history. Kind of, where have the Spiritborn been throughout all of this?
Good
yeah,
question.
so for anybody who
Everyone's gonna ask
knows
that.
the lore of
think they know.
Diablo, this region is no stranger to Mephisto, right?
Mhm.
So if you go back to Diablo 2 and you look at the story there, his original soul stone was imprisoned in this place. And its presence corrupted the Zakarum faith, it corrupted the region, and the Spiritborn remember this. And so over the course of what's been happening in
So they
D4,
remember, but what did they
they've
do?
decided to stay at arm's length out of fear that history might repeat itself.
Yeah, so like I
What?
said before, this is an untouched realm. It's pure. This is something so sacred. And with Nerel coming back with the Soul Stone, this is a huge problem for the,
So they're
the
afraid
people
of
of Nahantu,
Mephisto
but specifically
corrupting
the
the spirit
Spiritborn that are
realm?
trying to protect this land.
Yeah, and at this point, with him back, they have no choice but to rejoin the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible to hear more about the Spiritborn and where they originated from. And of
wishy-washy
course,
to kind of fill
thank
them in,
you,
but that's
Eleni,
okay.
for taking us into the spirit realm in itself. You know, we've talked about the new class and how that was created and what they've been up to. Next,
Okay.
we're actually going to take a look at how the
Gameplay?
art and concepts were designed.
All right, art and concept's cool too. I love that stuff. Oh shit, that's cool. I guess that's for the eagle armor. They're very based off Aztec, and like in Aztec themes, there's the eagle warrior, the jaguar warrior. I don't know if there's such thing as a gorilla or centipede warrior. That might be only Diablo, but still very cool. Oh, the art. Oh, this is cool. The art and animation. In a second life, I would have done video game as a job, design work as a job. I think that would have been really cool. To create, but then like in some ways, when you create the game, then you don't want to. Very nice, very cool. Yeah.
We are now joined by my blood brother, Art Director Nick Chilano, who is here to
What?
show us
Oh,
how the
I thought it was-
Spiritborn
wait, that
visually
was
came to
actually-
be.
anyways.
Nick, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Adam. I'm really excited to talk about the Spiritborn finally.
I know, it's been a long time coming.
Finally.
Been a long time
It's been
coming.
leaked for a
Nick, will
year,
you tell
but you
us a
know,
little
that's
bit
okay.
more about like how this class came to be, especially from the art side.
Yeah, you know, first of all, like that trailer, like what an origin story.
The
for
trailer
Diablo
was really
class.
cool.
Like, you gotta go
Blizzard
into the jungle,
can hype
answer
people
the
up with
call,
trailers
you're
for sure.
cold. Like it's pretty rock and roll, and on the art side, like we love that stuff. So I think when you go back to like what Eleni
Oh, okay.
and Brent were talking about,
Level 1,
we
10,
really want to
25.
capture everything they just mentioned from a visual standpoint. So for us, it's about trying to infuse the Hantu, the spirit realm.
Honestly, I
and
like the
a
level
martial arts
25
feel
gear. It's
into the
like
class.
you have the spirit on your shoulder, but like I think it gets
Brent
too
mentioned
ethereal.
that like kind of lightning rod
Anyways.
moment. That's something that the art team really focuses on. When those moments happen,
Oh,
we
that's
really
neat.
lock into that and start to do a lot of iteration. So like, you know, concept will start casting a really wide net, but when that happens, we really start to bring it in and we start to really do a lot of concepts around that so that we can kind of get that tagline that the team needs, which is like creating the living, breathing embodiment of the spirit realm.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's really after
Ooh,
we get
look at
past
those.
that initial inspirational piece,
I like
we
the
want
tattoos
to
of the wings.
drill down into
And like the
finding that
centipede.
iconic
So yeah, centipede
piece.
armor,
And
jaguar.
so when
Where's
you
the
look at
gorilla
some of
armor?
the
Come
imagery
on.
that we're showing today, you can see how we're taking that embodiment and we're bringing it into all of the iconic look of that character. We wanted a class that
Very cool.
wouldn't necessarily wear armor to protect themselves, but rather become the guardian that they're all about. And so if you're into the jaguar, you're wearing the jaguar helm. Your markings are the spots and patterns that you would see on that creature. The way that you move through the jungle would also be a big part of that package. And then once we have that iconic look, we can actually roll it out to the rest of the team.
Yeah, that's really the DNA of like where we start going. Like those iconic images drive the entire art department at that point. And
Ooh.
that's our North Star. So we can move into things like,
Look at
how
that.
do
Oh,
we
look at
get
that
Spirit
is very
Guardians
cool. Reminds me of like
on
Udyr from
screen?
League of
How do they
Legends.
fit into the combat?
Spirit Warrior.
If you think about the eagle, is the full eagle show up? Is it just feathers? How do we represent that? And how do we like ramp that up through our visuals so you can start with something, a little more on a certain scale and get to this like epic moment. We also want to explore, visually, like visual iconography at the same time. So while we're doing all that iteration and stuff with the iconic looks and the skills, we're also starting to get into like, what is the identity of the class? Where do we want to put this iconography? And like, what is that visual footprint?
It does very thematically match
You know,
Nahantu,
it's
that's for
seeing
sure.
all this like badass concept art. Like shout out to our concept artists
Our
on
concept
the
I wish I
art
could draw.
Yeah.
so good.
Very cool.
Like how do you guys actually take this from like concept now to actually building out the character from some of this concept art?
Yeah, once we have alignment between the design direction that we want to go, we understand kind of roughly mechanically and from a design perspective where we want it to be and where we want it from an art direction standpoint. We sit down with each department and we actually roll out the idea. We pitch them, and we're
I
like,
wonder
hey,
how
this
long
is
it took
what
them
we're
to make
thinking,
this class.
and really
Like, did
get
they
them
start
to understand
when the
where we're trying to
expansion,
head,
when the
so that
release of
when
the
they
game,
go
or-
off in their crafts and make the best work that they possibly can make, the sum of all the parts end up with a killer class like the Spiritborn.
Collaboration's a big thing, and it really starts with the character art department. They take these like 2D images and bring them to life in 3D. They will start to figure out materials, the fine details of how our armor's crafted, to like big silhouette shapes. One of the interesting things about this class is we started to recognize that like the helms, the gauntlets, the belts were really great places to like hone in on those like visual elements.
Oh damn, that is
and another nice thing is like the armor really started to
you don't
kind
see
of
those.
come
You don't
into
see that
space
type of
being
like
very
clothing on
functional
Blizzard
and
characters that
practical.
often
You'll
anymore.
notice that like the legs are kind of open, the upper body's kind of open. It's because we're making a really fast, agile class. So we want everything to kind of line up. And like Brent said, like they don't need to be fully armored. They are protected by the Spirit Guardians. Their offense is their defense, and it shows when you play it. Speaking of fast and agile, we move to tech art. Tech art really is the team that will kind of find what our limits are and kind of allow us to break them a little bit. So they do a lot of range of motion tests. They're trying to figure out how we can get really dynamic poses, really dynamic lines of actions, and we want to push that because this class really needs us to kind of be in the spot where we're like kind of pushing the boundaries of what we've done normally.
So if it's agile,
Yeah, it's awesome because like
I'm assuming it's a dexterity class. That's what I kind of assumed.
And it's the apex predator in the jungle itself. Like, how do you put that towards something like animation now? Like
Seems like
getting
it's
the
just like an
character to move
Aztec monk,
and kind of
pretty
telegraphing that through that animation.
Like a melee fighter.
Like one of the key elements here is making sure that we have a combat archetype that's unique. So if you take a look at the original 5 classes, each one of them has a very distinct style. And so when we were thinking about the Spiritborn, we naturally went to martial arts. And what does that mean for the movement through the jungle? And actually, I feel like we found a really good pairing there.
There we go, martial arts.
Like the animation team, like they went crazy with reference. They were looking at Muay Thai, Taekwondo, kickboxing, boxing, karate. There was a stunt woman that did these amazing like reference materials that we saw. And the really interesting thing here is we're not trying to like just mimic a martial arts style. We're really trying to find the best pieces of them.
I like
and
how they
seeing
board out
where
his
they
ID
fit,
cards.
how
I mean,
can
it
we
makes sense.
manipulate
It's just
them,
funny.
How can we rearrange them in ways
figure
that
out
make
that
a
was.
really unique and interesting fighting style for the Spiritborn? Once the animation team has that, and like they, again, they have a wide range of options that they're looking at, they start to figure out like where it fits for each guardian. So, for example, the gorilla is blunt force, lots of strength.
Yes.
The jaguar
Raw
is
strength.
cleaves, multi-hit combos, aggression. The centipede is like open palm strikes for applying poisons and unearthing things from the ground. And the eagle is about really precision movements and repositioning on the battlefield. So like they nailed it when it came to that.
Honestly, it's like the combination of all the things that we put
Interesting.
together. We'd been talking about. It's like we've almost invented our own martial arts style for
So
Diablo.
kind of like the druid, where it
and
almost
we've been
seems like
talking
gorilla
about
is
this
bear
The last
form.
few days with all the people.
I
that
mean,
we
people are
know.
going to joke that
And they
that's like
actually
Druid
said,
2.0.
Hey, does it have a name?
Gorilla's bear form.
And currently
the
it doesn't.
bird is like
so
lightning.
for those of you at home, if
I
you
guess
had ideas,
Centipede is
check out
earth.
the
And
the
werewolf
Spiritborn
is
gameplay
jaguar.
and,
In a
like,
way, that's kind of, you
names,
can kind of
suggestions,
correlate
like,
them a little
yeah,
bit.
we got to
all
name this
ears.
thing. Right?
Exactly, we're all
Yeah,
ears.
right.
I'm cool
Well,
with it. I like the
we've heard
nature
about,
classes.
concept, and we've heard about character art, tech art, and now we just heard about animation. I always call it kind of like the frosting on the cake, and that is kind of VFX, and that makes everything kind of pop a little bit. How does VFX actually play into something like the Spiritborn?
Yeah, at this point, VFX is really they're an amazing bridge between like gameplay and the visuals of the game. And they had a really important lift, which was to try to figure out like
Animations
how
are
do we
great.
represent like the spirit realm and these like elemental spirit guardians like together. What is that fantasy and what is that story we're telling? So Eleni mentioned earlier that like there's this veil, right? So we needed to understand like how do you get the jaguar, for example, to like come through this veil, show up in Sanctuary, and exit through the veil. So visually, we're looking at like, what is the spirit realm?
I mean, I guess one difference between like Druid and like Druid have physical transformations or animals. These are more just spirits, kind of like, you visibly see.
They become physical. The jaguar is now engulfed in flames. This
Oh,
spirit
so I guess
guardian.
is the jaguar like fire?
It kills everything on the screen that you can like that's around it, and then it exits through that veil. And
It looked like the
kind of,
bird was
transitions
lightning.
into
I
that
wonder
blue
what
white beast
the
again. That's a
gorilla
fantastic
is,
story
I guess,
for us to
Earth?
tell, and it also allows
Find
us
out.
to start to understand like what are our pieces
physical.
with the VFX and how to then ramp up our basic skills to be maybe lean a little more into the elemental side. Our core skills, we start to like kind of blend the two together. Maybe it's like the gorilla fish show up and they look like that spirit element, and then they, but then you go into the ultimates where it's just like our spectacles like ramped up. And to be honest with you, like when it all comes together, like there is a feel to this class that is really awesome. Kind of like inherently martial arts has a rhythm and a cadence to it.
Show us the
This class
gameplay.
has that. It's fantastic to look at. You feel it when you play it, and the art team, they killed it. They did a fantastic job.
Yeah, I gotta.
I mean, I do
give
appreciate
another
this stuff.
shout
There is
out
a
to
lot that goes
the
into this
Diablo
stuff.
4 art team. Absolutely killed it. The Spiritborn is fantastic. It's great to look at, great to play. But Nick, thank you so much for walking us through the creation of the Spiritborn. Reminder for everyone watching from home, we'll actually be holding a Q&A at the end of today's Spiritborn showcase. Similar
Oh
to
boy,
how
we'll
we
see what
always
those
do
are
with
like.
all our live streams. You can drop your questions in the Diablo Twitch
I
chat,
can
and
already
we will try
imagine
to
the
get
first
to
question. Why is
as
it not a
many of them
paladin?
as possible towards the end of the show.
Oh, here we go. Okay. Oh, yeah. Definitely getting like a monk, Diablo 3 monk feeling from this. Just, different aesthetic, but... Very cool. Gameplay deep dive. All right.
We've heard the lore, we've seen the art. Now let's get ready to talk about some gameplay. I know a lot of people
I know
are
everyone's
excited to hear
complaining,
more
like,
about
all right,
how
finally.
this class actually plays. So next up, we have Bjorn Mikkelson, class designer, on stage to talk about the gameplay for the Spiritborn. Bjorn is actually here to tell us more about the Spiritborn's overall class kit and design. And later on, we'll get into some itemization, which I know every fan wants to hear about because itemization is, of course,
Gameplay and
incredible,
itemization, right?
especially within Diablo.
I bet you a lot of people are going to
Bjorn,
skip the first half
welcome.
of this. I think it's cool.
Thanks for having me.
I know Bjorn will be a fan favorite here because
Yeah,
he's
absolutely
going to
will.
walk us through all the skills and the gameplay for how it works. So Bjorn, can you kick us off and tell us a little bit about this new class?
Absolutely. So yeah, just like high level, what is this class? Excellent question. So basically what Spiritborn are, they are these jungle warriors who are empowered by the spirits. They're sort of this dexterity
Makes sense.
class,
Their name is
and sort of
Spiritborn.
masters of martial arts and hand-to-hand combat. And so what they do is ultimately, all of their actions and their movements, they sort of resonate with the spirits to form sort of these unique combat styles as they're fighting. They sort of mix and match them to hit whatever sort of build they need.
Awesome. So like
Okay.
if you are a current Diablo player right now, or like let's say I'm a current Diablo player, which I am, I play a lot of Rogue or Barb, like where would you kind of place the speed and aggression of the Spiritborn?
Yeah, I would say Spiritborn is definitely probably our fastest, most aggressive class. It's got multiple gap closers built into its basic attacks. It's got several movement skills, very high
They should do that
damage
to
on
the other
those,
melee
as well as
classes.
several ways to upgrade its evade skill as well. It's all about kind of like getting on a target, sticking to it, and killing it.
Awesome. I know we had footage earlier of like, you know, within the trailer of players actually being able, and we talked about this earlier, players being able to actually summon in these spirit guardians. So can you like just summon a giant jaguar into battle or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, kind of in addition to being these master martial artists, because they're empowered by these spirits, you'll see parts of the spirits, but then ultimately with the ultimates, the spirits themselves will show up on the battlefield and they'll empower you and deal damage.
And it's really the core of the fantasy, right? Like if we talk about power fantasies, summoning the god into battle is the power fantasy for this class. And one of the things that I really liked about that is that we were getting a bunch of feedback early on about making ultimates more meaningful. And we were actually able to do that with this class ground up.
Awesome. I know
I'm
people are probably
guessing they're
dying to
hinting at
know,
making
like,
the other
okay,
classes' ultimates better.
Let's jump into some Spirit Guardians. So I think this
Okay.
is a great opportunity. Maybe we should start off with like the
Excuse me,
Jaguar
getting
being the
over a
first one.
cold.
Bjorn, do you want to take us through the Jaguar itself?
Sure. Yeah,
Ooh,
starting off,
that's a
Jaguar
cool-
is a great
the
one.
background changes are neat.
Jaguar is, as we've kind of touched on before, it is sort of this manifestation of just like the hunter. It's exhilaration,
Jaguar
it's violence,
gameplay.
it's aggression. It's
Yeah.
attacking repeatedly, kind of just constant pressure as it's going.
It looks like it does fire
It's got
damage.
these ramping mechanics to it. It's got lots
And
of
it also
kill
looks,
streaks.
this looks and feels like a
Mechanically
rogue or a
speaking,
werewolf
the way
druid.
we've kind of translated this, its
dashes
primary
and-
focus is attack speed. And it chases that through a new keyword and mechanic that we call ferocity.
Which is not my
this
big.
is a stacking buff that it can generate, usually
Ferocity.
via Jaguar skills, that will increase the attack speed of all of its skills, but it will
Attack
also
speed.
enhance other Jaguar skills so you can use them more often,
Yeah.
reduce their cooldowns. that
Definitely
sort
like
of
the
thing.
dexterity-based martial art.
Moving on to an example, I guess, of a Jaguar skill. First off, here's one we have Ravager. This is a new type of skill we're adding to the game called Incarnate skills. They all have a passive and active effect.
Okay.
This one allows you to maintain your ferocity at just like a minimum level, so you're all just like a little bit fast. But then when
Cool.
you
Very
activate
cool.
it, kind of go full Jaguar mode, it gives you additional attacks, kind of like whenever you hit something, it does an extra strike. So it can even turn like skills that are like deal a little bit less damage, they can now deal extra damage just whenever you hit something. Moving on to another skill, we have Rushing Claw. This one is the Jaguar's kind of primary mobility skill. It will dash you through a target.
like a
and slash
fire dash
everything
for
along the
Rogue.
way. And the key to this one is you can kind of use it over and over and over
I
again.
love the
like
aesthetic of the
multi-strike your
zone, though.
enemies.
I mean, we're getting kind of a look at
And then
Nahantu,
finally,
too.
of course,
is great.
we have the ultimate, the Hunter. This will actually manifest the Jaguar onto the battlefield. You'll leap through
Ooh,
the
wow.
air. It's also a movement skill. And
You're
when
like
you
a
land, the
pounce.
Jaguar will destroy everything. And it also has upgrades to kind of help chase the kill streak vibe. There's a chance to reset the cooldown after you kill something with it.
Yeah,
Impressive.
So if you look at
Not my
all
style,
of these
but
things
very
as
cool.
a package, you start to see almost a combat archetype built into each Guardian themselves. And that was
Okay.
actually something that was really important to us. So if you were speccing into the Jaguar, it's important to those types of players who do want to keep the attack speed up, that do want to keep their kill streaks going. And you're going to see this as like a through line that each particular Guardian will have their own thing.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the fast, frantic gameplay, and I will
Yeah.
say I have a little bit of bias towards the Jaguar for sure. But I know we want to go on to the other Guardians for sure and
Gorilla.
for all our tanky friends out there.
Yeah, there we go.
Bjorn, do you want to walk us
I
through
love
the
playing
Gorilla?
tanks.
Absolutely. Moving on to
Yeah.
the Gorilla. The Gorilla, core concept behind protection and defense, but
Okay.
it's not just like passive defense. This is a very active defensive play style where you're shrugging off the damage, but you're also returning it to your attacker.
like
so it's
Thorns?
really got this kind of core of like
Ooh, look at that.
retribution also sort of built into it. Its core mechanic and stat that we work with is damage reduction. It chases us in two ways. One is
That enemy
through
looks kinda
using
cool.
block, sort of actively
To
blocking
me, this
damage,
feels like Monk
as
for
well
sure.
as
It's
a
just like
second
punches and
new
kicks.
keyword and mechanic called Resolve. This is also a stacking buff, but this one falls off whenever you get hit. So it's really important to keep stacking it and kind of keep stealing yourself and building your resolve back up. But as long as you have any stacks of it, you get the full damage reduction bonus. So moving on to just a couple examples for gorilla skills. Starting off, we have Crushing Hand. This is their core spender skill. Kind of just does what it says. Will smash your enemies to pieces. Kind of neat thing about it
Like a
is
ground
it's actually
pound.
two separate attacks that kind of overlap in the middle. So you can sort of prioritize a single target and deal double damage to it.
Oh,
Another
that's
attacking
always
skill
different.
that we have. This one's Payback. This one really leans hard into the sort of aspect of retribution that we have going on. This one will deal a large amount of damage, and that
Like a big
damage will
clap?
ramp up the more something has hit you. So it's really good for just like ending a fight if you need to. But also like as things are hitting you, that will reduce its cooldown. So kind of you have this flow of like being able to sort of like end fights, but also kind of
You
keep
almost want to
hitting
get.
as you go.
It definitely feels kind
And
of
then finally,
thorn.
again, we
oriented.
have the ultimate skill bringing in the gorilla itself. The skill is called the Protector. It creates a large protected area on the battlefield that will grant you barrier
Looks
while
like
you're
it's doing
inside
like
it, as well
3
as several other
druid
defensive bonuses that you can
petrify
spec into with
ultimates.
it. And the gorilla will just smash any enemies that try to come and harm you while you're in it.
Yeah, if you like that bruiser archetype, like this is the build for you. It is
Bruiser,
definitely
puncher.
about that
Okay.
give and
Yeah,
take of
that seems
damage.
more my
I mean,
speed.
you said it earlier.
I'm too
Anyone
slow
who's
for the
been
fast
looking
action.
For a tank or a tank-like build in Diablo, this is the one that you're going to want to spec into as a part of your kit.
Yeah, it sounds like a really unique way of being able to, especially for tank players, to like bring damage to enemies and stuff like that, which is so awesome. So next, on to our third guardian. Of course, we have the eagle. Bjorn, do you want to?
Of course, we're saving the
take
centipede
us
for
through the
last.
eagle?
The eagle.
Yeah,
This one
so
seems
the
to like the
eagle,
least to me.
It's kind of soaring above it all. We've got this guardian that represents precision and accuracy.
This
and
looks like
kind
the
of finesse.
caster spec, right? Where you're more ranged.
Its
Yeah.
ability, its freedom of movement, like a lot of the movement that the class has is very aggressive, very in your face, and the eagle really is able to kind of take that to another level and kind of go
It
wherever
kind of looks like
wants.
lightning spears, though.
In
like
addition
that.
to that, it can also sort of like extend its attacks to sort of pseudo-ranged playstyle.
Pseudo range, like
Allows it
mid
to
range.
really
Yeah.
like prioritize a target and sort of
These look like
hit
thunder
from
jabs
anywhere.
from the Amazon from Diablo
so its
2.
core
Kind of.
stat that it cares about
Yeah, like
is movement
lightning
speed.
jab.
That allows it kind of, like
Forget
I
what
said,
it's called.
able to kind of go anywhere it wants and sort of tactically
kind of get that
reposition on the
fantasy here.
battlefield. And it also has several ways to sort of amplify its evade skill, adding damage, that sort of thing to it.
The dash, yeah.
So moving into just a couple examples, we of course have to start off with Soar. This is sort of Spiritborn's premier mobility skill. Takes you up into the air, out of the battle for a second.
like the
able to
Crusader
dodge mechanics with that if you need
Wrath
to.
Strike from Diablo
but
3.
also, because the Eagle is all about kind of those big impacts as well, it will create a target area where you're going to come down and make those enemies vulnerable so that it just amplifies the damage when you land.
Very
Moving
cool.
on to
All
another
right.
example.
Sounds cool still.
We have Razor Wings. This is a damaging skill
Very ranged.
for the Eagle. This one has kind of this cool back and forth where it sends it out, allows you to hit something at range, but because
Like
it
a
also
boomerang.
returns to you, it sort of rewards you for the tactical positioning on the battlefield, so you can sort of line it up so it'll hit different things as it comes back. And then, of course, our ultimate skill, the Seeker, bringing in the Eagle itself to just annihilate your enemies with damage. You can cast it anywhere on the battlefield. It charges up and then blasts off. The blast can be upgraded to be a guaranteed critical strike, and while it's on the battlefield, it will also
Not
make
bad.
everything vulnerable for you. This
Not
is
my
also
play
like one
style.
of the
This is
first
definitely like if you
ultimates
wanna
that
be
we
more
have, which will
ranged.
have multiple charges, so you can kind of use it back to back or
I
like
feel like we have a
prioritize
lot of
target
lightning
with it,
spec
and
character-
there's,
well, I
like,
guess
a lot
Druid
of player
and-
agency with that.
What's it called?
Yeah, this is really for that tactical player. Where positioning is super important. You don't necessarily want to be constantly in the fray, so you still want to output that damage. Maybe you want to put it in a particular place in the encounter, but you can do it by going in and then you can get right back out. So for those players who really like that tactical positioning, that's what the Eagle is for.
Yeah, it seems like the Eagle gives you that extra freedom of like in mobility, so you can kind of move in.
I
and
see
out,
what he
especially
did
with
there.
things like
Eagle and
Soar,
freedom, good one.
Which is sick to see for sure.
The election is
so unique
soon.
for Diablo 4 for sure on that.
Good
end.
one.
Last but not least, of course, this is probably our most unique Spirit Guardian, and probably one that I'm sure a lot of people are like looking at and going like, "Oh, this has got to be crazy."
Yeah, this one's kind of. When you think of like spirits, you don't think of centipede.
How's the centipede play out?
Yeah, so moving to the centipede.
Assuming poison.
The centipede's very unique. It represents this sort of abstract concept of the cycle of life and death, and the way we've kind of chosen to interpret that is that it's sort of this epicenter of attrition, but it's also like really about just kind of like this
I feel like if I ever
endless
did
or
it's
inescapable
between
sort of
Centipede or
persistence.
Gorilla for
and that's
me,
like
for sure.
really bad for your enemy.
A Poison
kind of really
Bruiser
good for
sounds
you.
fun.
So its core mechanics that it works with that persistence is damage over time, poisoning, crowd controls, that sort of thing. But then it uses those things to sort of
I'm
empower
guessing
and
that's the
sustain
ultimate.
itself, so also like leeching
Basically,
life and that
like
sort of thing back to you,
a
so
better
draining
version of
your enemies
Hydra, pretty
as
much.
you kill them. So moving on to
Very
just a
cool.
quick example.
That's, yeah,
Stinger is
pretty
our
badass.
core skill for the Centipede. This one does a large amount of damage in a small area in front of you, but the sort of interesting thing about it is that that damage will also echo out to any nearby poisoned enemies. So it kind of has this adaptive, like, dynamic aim,
Oh, so
like,
anything that's
range
poisoned,
that
I guess,
has,
will
sort
go
of
out and
depending
hit
on like
them.
how much you've been
That's
spreading your
interesting.
poisons around the field.
Has like a range.
So it can like
Moving.
basically like hit the whole screen if you really want to. Another skill example that we have would be Scourge. Scourge kind of takes that sort of like
That reminds me of like the
oppressive
Witch Doctor
control that
Fear,
the Centipede
or the
has,
voodoo thing. I
and
forget
it
what that
will
spell's
fear,
called.
It will slow and poison enemies and sort of disrupt
This
any kind of
this
like
spec definitely
strategies
feels
they
like
might
the
have
most
going
Witch
on and
Doctor,
to sort
right?
of allow you to
Poisons,
turn the
bugs,
tables on them.
insects. You know?
And then finally, we have the ultimate skill, bringing in the Centipede itself onto the battlefield. This is the Devourer. Poison laser beams, globs
I
of
bet you
poison
Sorks
everywhere.
are jealous of this
Just the
spell.
Centipede
But I mean,
kind
it's
of
an ultimate
wrecking
versus
the
a
entire
basic skill,
battlefield.
right? Or
And it's got upgrades which will also allow it to instantly
cool.
execute enemies who have been fully poisoned, sort of helping the cycle of life and death to speed up a little bit there.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
cool
this
because
is clearly our
dots,
most
you know, that's the biggest
Diablo,
issue with dots,
Guardian
right?
that we have. It's becoming a fan favorite very quickly. Where the people who have gotten a hands-on with it have a lot to say about it. But the cool thing about this one is we took on a really unique design challenge. Like, how do you take a concept of damage over time, dealing damage, regenerating life, and make that kind of the core of
Yeah,
an
that is kinda
entire
different.
archetype? I thought you guys did a fantastic
Interesting.
job at getting it there. For those Type A players who really want to manipulate the field and keep that
I
damage
think
up and
I'll
keep
play
that
Gorilla
resilience
spec,
going,
but
this
I'm
is
gonna try
definitely that
both
class
out
for
and
you.
see which one I like
I
more.
have to call out. It's so crazy seeing a giant centipede behind me right now. But I know a lot of players at home are probably looking at each of these 4 Spirit Guardians and they're going like, "Hey, this is probably the
Very
one
cool.
I'm gonna go with." Just seeing some
Yep.
of the gameplay and some of the play styles. But I think one big question that probably a lot of people have is, are you kind of forced to go down one of these, or can you actually do some mix and match?
The
or
fact that
how
he's
does
asking
work?
that question, I'm assuming you can
freedom
kind of
of
mix
choice
it
is
up.
really important for this class. So if you want to go all in on one of them, go for it. Like, there's no problem in doing that. There's benefits that you can see from it, but there's also benefits from mixing and matching. Like, we wanted adaptability and hybridization to be at the core of
I
this
like to be
class. So it's been a
specialized
goal
with my
from the very
class. Like when I'm
beginning to actually
werebear, I
get
like to
that
be
there.
full werebear, but I do think it's cool that you can
when
mix
you
and
get
match.
hands-on with this, like,
People
you're
like
going to
that.
want to experiment. We want you to experiment.
That's
We
good.
know that there's going to be many builds that are very emergent, and I actually can't wait to see some of the cool stuff that people come up with once this goes live.
Yeah, exactly. Like, at its heart, Spiritborn is really all about like personalization, sort of expressing yourself. And so like,
I think every class should
whichever
be like
spirit
that.
sort of resonates with you, we really want to allow you to mix and match them kind of to your heart's content, and sort of make that play style choice like fully customizable. And the primary way that we're doing that, or the main way that we're doing that, is the Spiritborn's class mechanic called Spirit Hall. The way the Spirit Hall works is you start your journey off by choosing one of 4 bonuses at the top. The primary
looks
bonus
vaguely
this is a
familiar to the
massive
Druid
bonus
one.
that will add sort of a thematic effect to all of your skills of that type. So like an effect like the Jaguar will add extra strikes and that sort of thing to all your Jaguar skills. But a subtle but very important extra piece of this is that we'll also add that spirit's tag to your entire skill kit. So every single part of your skill kit now has the
interesting.
Jaguar skill. And so even if you want to use like Centipede skills, you can still sort of hook into various parts of the Jaguar using this bonus.
Okay.
Then later on
That's
in your
actually
journey,
kind of interesting.
you will unlock a second bonus. This is a set of 4 distinct bonuses from the first. Each of these kind of has a tie-in with the sort of core mechanics of each of the spirits. So we mentioned before sort of the new keywords that we were
I feel like
introducing.
that's
the Jaguar
how do
has
you
ferocity,
balance that? I think that's gonna be
the
a
gorilla
balancing
has
nightmare
resolve,
where you
those
can
sorts of
make
things.
every
These give you
tag
an
one.
opportunity to sort
You know,
of
if you're
mix
doing
those into your
Centipede,
kit,
gorilla, anyways.
regardless of like if you are using those
see how it
specific
goes.
skills or not, and sort of like add that extra layer on top of your build. And when you're choosing these spirits, these can absolutely be the same. You can pick gorilla and gorilla, jaguar, jaguar, or you can mix and match them. And it's really important that like they all kind of flow and work together.
So if you look at the nesting doll effect that we have of your skill tree, your class mechanic. This can get complicated very quickly.
Yeah,
And so one
that's
of
what I
the
was
things
that's
that
what I
the
was
team
saying.
took on was this idea of finding what resonates most with each guardian and how do we create some level of overlap so that we can have some synergies between all of them.
Yeah, exactly. As we hit, like each of these has like very clear themes, right? You've got the Jaguar with its attack speed, you've got the Gorilla with its protection. You can definitely build
Oh,
into those,
what the
but it
heck?
was important for us to sort of establish
Thorns,
that
critical
these spirits, they don't
strike.
exist like in isolation from each other. They have overlap. They have things that they both care about, and that allows us to sort of
Interesting.
create these very hybrid-esque builds that work together. You know, just like an example, right? You've got like the Jaguar is a hunter. It's all about aggression and kind of chaos, and that's a thing. It
Okay, that
loves
was hard to
but as
all
a
take
hunter,
in,
you're
but that
also
was
sort of
cool.
providing, you're also sustaining
Really
yourself,
trying to make you. I
which is
didn't see
something that the
overpower
Centipede
in
also
there, which
loves
was
to do.
interesting.
And so they both care about healing, and they both have like different hooks that they can do for that. And so you can really like, if you're looking to get more healing into your build, you can add some Centipede, you can add some Jaguar, mix them together, you can make an entire build about healing that is Centipede and Jaguar. These aren't like prescribing ways to build, but they're more so just like they're overlapping stats that allow them to sort of communicate with each other. So just a couple examples. We have, for instance, if you want to build like the Gorilla, Gorilla's a lot of protection, Jaguar's a lot of sort of chaotic, constant damage. So when you mix those two together, you get this sort
Jaguar,
of like
Gorilla.
semi-tanky brawler who can just kind of go toe-to-toe with anything. And they
kinda
sort of
see
like
that,
dip into
okay.
the stat of dodge, because dodge is a little bit inherently a slightly more RNG, a little bit more chaotic, kind of Jaguar, but it also kind of has that damage mitigation. And so you kind of combine them together and you have this very like retribution.
I don't know. What
but
do you guys
also
think? I don't know if I'd
fast-paced
do a
play style.
combination. I just when I
Another
like the
example
aesthetic
would
and
be
theme of being
potentially
one thing.
if we think about like the centipede and
everyone's
the
different.
eagle. The centipede's all about sort of debilitating your enemies and like making them weaker, and the eagle's all about like kind of finding those weak points and like getting these high damage, you know, bursts off. So when you add those two together, they both care about vulnerable and sort of like turning the tables on all of your enemies. And so adding that together kind of creates this character that's sort of just able to like prioritize a target, weaken it, and then just like cull it from the battlefield.
Yeah, it's. I'm so glad Bjorn brought all these like really good examples for us. He's got
Very
a lot
cool.
of footage for us to go
I'm
through.
I'm excited for this class. It does
It's
seem
awesome
really cool.
to see all these skills and how they work.
It's
with
kind
the
of what I
actual
was
Spirit Guardians.
expecting.
And of course,
Which isn't a
the
not a bad
big
thing.
popular topic that comes with every single class is itemization. And I know
Okay.
we have a lot to talk about with legendary aspects and some uniques as well. So Bjorn, Brent, like how does itemization work with Spiritborn?
Yeah, we all know that itemization is the heart of the game, right? And as we've been moving through our itemization journey with this game, we've had a really
Big
great
rework
opportunity to
about 2
fold
months
in
ago.
all the feedback and how that applies to the Spiritborn as we've been developing. And one of the cool things that we did was took the opportunity to actually lean into the things that you get from items and see how they build into the spirit's abilities themselves. So we're going to show a few examples of that.
Right,
Now this is
that makes
just the tip
sense.
of the iceberg. There's a lot of really cool stuff coming, but we thought we'd do a really quick breakdown and show you what that looks like.
Yeah, so just hitting a couple examples, you know, we have added this large suite of Spiritborn legendaries and uniques to the game. But just to break down kind of some of our thoughts as we were working with them, sort of the types of legendaries you can expect to see. You know, one example, as we were just speaking about sort of these hybridization things, there's a lot of different stats in our game and sort of making them
let's
work
see.
together, not just like work together, but like be
Hybrid.
cool together.
Power
So we kind of
augmenting,
have this
unique,
category of items that will sort of
subpower.
interweave a couple of different stats. Secondly, we have our power augmentation legendaries. These just kind of let you take like your favorite skill and ascend it to its final form and just kind of like go crazy with it. And then thirdly, we have sub-powers. These are sort of things like, we think of them like rogue grenades, barbarian dust devils. These are sort of things you can sort of build around. They're sort of almost like skills, but they don't exist in your skill tree as things you can put on your bar.
Okay, I like those.
and then
I did
finally, we
grenade
have
rogue
our
this
unique items, which
expansion.
are there to enable you to sort of make the
I think those
craziest
are
builds
fun.
you can think of. So moving
They
on
did-
to a couple examples, just kind of one for each real quick.
They don't seem
We
as
have
strong as like
Tormentors. This is
you
an
just
example
spamming a
of
core skill, right?
hybridization legendary. This one interweaves poisoning and thorns together, kind of in an interesting way that'll allow you to apply your thorns
Oh,
you know,
wow.
in a different way than
Your
just like
poison
having something hit you all the
Takes
time.
damage from your
Great.
That's a cool.
You can
That's a
probably see the
creative way to use
connection.
thorns.
Gorilla, Centipede, they'll love this sort of thing. Moving on to an example of
that.
the power augmentation.
really cool.
We have Bristling Vengeance. This takes the payback seal that we kind of hit on before. Usually it's like a smaller AoE like
Ooh,
right
that's
in
a
front of
gorilla
you that
spell.
just hits one enemy, but this one really allows it to sort of like extend its range, hit multiple enemies, as well as apply your
Yeah,
thorns
that looks cool
over an
for
area.
gorilla.
And then thirdly, we have an example of one of our sub-powers. This one's called a Pestilent Swarm. The cool thing that we're kind of trying
Wow.
out with our
Well, that
each
kind
of
of
our
makes me worried
sub-powers
about
is there are
Paladin, because that's
multiple
literally the
legendaries for
Paladin
them, and they
hammer,
sort of allow
but
you to customize
you know,
how they
insects
work.
instead of a hammer.
So there's like one that'll let your Pestilent Swarm like poison enemies, one that'll make it
I
spiral,
like that
one
aesthetic,
that'll
though.
even
That's
make
a
it
creative
orbit.
way.
You can sort of like
Instead of just
combine
stupid
those,
hammers,
like,
like,
you can have it
you
orbit
know,
and
bugs
spiral,
bugs
or poison.
swarm
You
like
can just
that.
have it shoot off, kind of whatever works for your
just-
build.
Very
We
cool.
really
I like
want
that.
people
That's a
to be able to
creative
experiment
idea.
and play with those sub-powers.
Creative, I mean, they're just taking something
and
they
then
already
just
had.
a couple of teasers, some of our uniques. These are some unique boots that basically allow you to override
Soar
your
becomes your evade.
skill
That's kind of like the
with Soar,
teleport for
just get the ultimate
mages
amount of mobility
or
you can think of.
sorcerers.
The neat thing about that
Like
is
that.
also that it allows you potentially like to take Soar off your bar. You can't let it go, but you at least kind of get to keep it with you in that evade slot.
Yeah, that's
and then
cool.
another example would be our unique quarter staff. Which is one of the 2 weapons we're adding with the Spiritborn. This one sort of allows you to ramp up your basic attacks. Spiritborn's basic attacks are a little bit special. They're kind of really cool. They're these 3-hit combos, and each third hit does like a special thing. And this specific unique basically lets you get that third attack all the time.
That is
then we have
kinda
to take
cool.
their
So you just
third
spam
attack
your
and
third
make it
spell.
a triple version that almost turns them into a different skill entirely.
That is.
Yeah, this is
that's-
awesome. Seeing
that's
all the,
interesting. I like that.
the couple of examples of uniques. As Brent mentioned, this is just kind of like the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
I personally would take the Soar boots all day. You know, being able to use, you know, Soar as an evade is absolutely amazing.
Does seem
but I
pretty
want to
good.
give a huge thanks to Bjorn for walking us through all the skills, especially associated with the Spirit Guardians, and of course the itemization across the whole entire class. We will actually have an extensive look for the entire community after the show on our blog. It will provide a great amount of detailed mention
Nice,
here
nice.
immediately
Maybe I'll make
following
that a
the
separate
stream,
video.
so you can check it out and do a deeper dive with the Spiritborn yourself. Now we're going to bring back everyone to get into our Q&A for all things Spiritborn.
Ooh, I'm liking this music. Ooh. I've seen that concept art. I'm liking this music, man. A little more up, you know, a little more energy. I like that. Hope this is in the game somewhere. This is cool. I'm glad that they're like, really showing everything off about this class. I don't know. I mean, what are you guys' thoughts? Anyone who's watching this or have already watched it? I mean, I think it's different enough. I knew a lot of people were like, it's not the Paladin, which I can totally understand. And everyone's like, oh, this is just a druid. I can also see that using animals, but it's definitely more, it is like, it's pretty much a shaman. Or
Now we're ready for our community Q&A, where we'll answer
we
your
go.
burning questions for all things Spiritborn.
Oh, boy.
If you have questions,
See what
again,
these are.
please drop them in Twitch chat, and we'll try to get through
First
as
one's
many
Paladin is
as
my guess.
possible through
I'll try
the
to
whole
guess
entire
them.
Q&A process. Thank you guys for joining us. We did some musical chairs to get everyone back up here during that
Nice.
quick little interstitial. I know as questions are coming up, one big question that everyone always asks, and I know we've probably seen it a million times in chat already, is like, hey, we have the Spiritborn. This is a brand new class. Why not something like a class from a prior game, like a Paladin or something from that?
Yeah, right out of
I'm
the
so
gate,
smart.
right?
Right out of the gate.
You know, when we started
figure.
off, one of the key things that were really important to us was to make sure that the class came from the place that we were going. We also knew that
That's kind of what
we did
I-
a really good job
yeah.
at revisiting classic archetypes like the
I
barbarian,
mean, the
and the
Zakarum
necro.
come from
And so
here, so
we
you
were in
know.
this position where
But
doing something new was a great opportunity. It was something that allowed us to inject some fresh gameplay in, and going after the Spiritborn was a wider palette to play with. And so making sure that we were building something from the ground up,
I like
from
that.
the
They're not
was
constrained
really the
to-
driving factor of this. And
you know, when you
we're
think
very
of
proud
Paladin,
of
they
where
need to
we
have
landed at
hammers,
today.
shield bash.
Awesome.
get that.
Another question that this is everyone. This is the first time you guys are explaining. This is everyone's favorite moment where I butcher Twitch names like no other. But Arcphoenix asks,
shoot.
"Wait, the lore. Like, where have the Spiritborn been in D3?
Oh, they kind of already said this
D2?
one.
Why are
Okay, I
they
should
not
have guessed.
fighting
Whoops.
Mephisto themselves."
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it before. Like this is a religion that has been building up over time. They're a little more secluded, and
Definitely
really
gives me
one of the
like
things that we looked at is, like, the
Wakanda, Black
early,
Panther, you know,
exploration of Akrat,
hidden in the
right?
mist.
Yeah.
Like
Kinda
there
thing.
wasn't much development that was going in, so that was like a new frontier for us to work with.
Yeah, and
Okay.
in general, the Spiritborn, which you'll notice when you do play the game, they are very scattered throughout Nahantu. It's not like they have this massive presence where you walk in and you're like, there they are. You know, it's like a little different than that. They're hidden, they're in the jungle, and they don't necessarily want to be seen. And this has sort of been the idea this entire time. It takes a lot of devotion to be a Spiritborn. This isn't something that you can hop in and out of. So when we talk about being a
I
Spiritborn,
think you're born a
these are people
Spiritborn,
who
right?
have
At least
devoted
in the
their
cinematic, it
entire
looked like that.
lives
Like you're just
to be doing
chosen,
this
right?
one
Those other
thing,
kids
and
died.
that's what they're doing in Nahantu. They're not
So-
exploring really.
Okay,
I
next
know
question.
we've actually gotten
Try
a
to
few
guess.
questions about this specifically. This is a pretty good question for Bjorn and Nick, because a lot of people have noticed, like, hey, quarterstaff and
Oh, new weapons.
Like,
Okay,
what are
well,
the new
you already
weapon
kinda said
types
it.
for Spiritborn specifically?
Sure.
I mean, it looks like a new glaive.
Spiritborn's bringing 2 new weapons with it. First off, we have the glaive, kind of its premier weapon that you see in all the key art. That's really the weapon for like a hunter. It's great for like taking down priority enemies.
Okay.
It's got built-in elite damage, that sort of thing. And then the second weapon we're adding is the quarterstaff. This is a faster weapon that they can use to even sort of like add like block chance and that sort of thing to it. So it's almost like a little bit of a
Oh,
pseudo
okay, that's cool. I'm
weapon,
guessing
but it's also got
Quarter
very
staff is
high
probably
attack.
for like the
Yeah,
gorilla.
from a fantasy standpoint, it was really cool to like try to create weapons that made sense for.
Wonder if
again,
any
like
other
Brent
class
mentioned,
can
like
use them.
where the class is from.
'Cause they just
So like a
next
glaive
patch
makes a
they're
lot of
adding
sense
so
for,
that
like,
more
cutting through the
classes
jungle
can use more
and, you know,
weapons.
being an aggressive weapon, being an attack-based weapon. The quarterstaff is really cool because it's like you could imagine like. How do they train with this? They probably found like really strong branches from like trees that were really important to them, and they start to like train with that, and eventually they kind of start to perfect that craft and that bow staff. So there's a lot of really cool fantasy that we can like the art team can really dig into.
It also looks cool.
Yeah,
like,
there's
like
that.
just to be frank, like if we're talking about a martial arts class, like
Yeah.
having the bow staff or the glaive to like really extend some of those key poses that we got with the martial arts stuff that we put into the game.
I like his
I mean,
honesty.
it just
do
looks
something that looks
really
cool, you
good.
know? That works.
Yeah,
People like
it's
that.
awesome to see like new weapons for the Spiritborn with Vessel of Hatred. So another question that we have here, this is from Bucko351. Easy name.
Okay.
Question: what's the difference between the Spiritborn and the Druid class? The
Okay,
Druid
I already
class currently has
brought this
bonds
up,
with,
so
like, the
this
stag,
counts.
the wolf, the eagle, and the snake. Like, what's kind of the changes between that and something like the Spiritborn?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the Spiritborn, you're not necessarily turning into this animal that we're talking about. This is a spirit guardian that lives in the spirit realm, and you're channeling this spirit guardian, and the manifestation that we're
Alright.
talking about is what comes out. So
I do
when we talk
get
about,
that.
like,
It's
ferocity
a
or
spirit
something,
attack, not an
that's
animal.
something that you see in the jungle, right?
Not
so
a visceral
you have
physical
this
attack. I
jaguar
guess.
that's recognizable, and that's this manifestation. It's the best way to show that. So if we had a different belief, then it would manifest in a different way. Versus the druid, you sort of really encompass the entire animal.
And you see that in the gameplay quite a bit, where I think, Nick, you were mentioning before, where it's like, yeah, I have this bond with the centipede. When I call him in, I call the centipede in to deal with this side of the combat, and then I go off and I start managing the other side of the combat. So you really see this like
Isn't
combat
that a summon
partnership
druid?
between the
I mean,
Guardians
I'm just giving him
and
shit.
the Spiritborn, which is incredibly unique.
We got a question here from Cat the Dewey.
the
They're
Dewey.
asking, we've seen 4 spirit guardians. Are there other spirit guardians that were
Oh.
considered potentially?
Well, I think they would have, would have announced
I'll
it.
spill the beans. I'll talk about it. You know, when we're choosing the spirits, we played around with a lot of concepts, super abstract stuff that weren't animal based. We talked about, okay, if I'm from the jungle, these things would probably represent things I know, which brought us to animals. And when we think about protection and strength, we originally had some conversations around an elephant. We're like, what does an
Oh.
elephant mean? If there's
Elephant.
a
That would have been kind of cool
animal
instead
that
of a gorilla.
represents like family and protection the most, the elephant is one of those. The gorilla was also being talked about at the same time, and they
I'm
mean
glad
the
they went
same
with
thing.
gorilla. I think that's just a cooler
So
animal.
when
And-
we looked at them side by side, that really came down
You know
to
what's
like
funny?
which one can
Gorilla,
convey the best
jaguar.
powers. What
I wonder
gives
how
you the
many.
right,
I wonder how many Spiritborns are going to be called Tarzan.
movement and
Anyways.
visuals that you would need for the power set itself.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I was
go
just gonna
ahead.
say,
Yeah,
like, we spent a lot of time trying to figure out, like, there's a lot of collaboration, and sometimes art will inform design, design will inform art. So I think this is a great spot where, like Brian was saying, like, we're looking at a lot of different things, but like when you think about Nahantu, when you think about like the canopy of the jungle, and you start thinking about how does that protect what's in the jungle, like the gorilla just made a lot of sense, like thematically. So like we start to find those moments, right? And you think about the centipede, it's like there's like the ground and the roots of the jungle, like what comes up, there's insects. So, you know, we spent a lot of time like exploring that. But when you think about the gameplay connection, poisons, fears, right? The centipede, that this like life and death kind of cycle they talked about, like the centipede makes a lot of sense. So we really start to try to connect the dots in really interesting ways. And those are the ones that really stick.
fictionally,
Fair enough. I like it.
the idea that these things are created based on human beliefs. We believe more in more than 4 things, right? So the idea that we could expand this out well beyond the class, we've developed more lore than you're actually going to see in the game for the Spiritborn, because we want this thing to live beyond just Diablo 4.
Awesome.
yeah,
I know
I mean,
we
Diablo
this,
5
this,
or
this one's a
something
little bit
else?
for Bjorn. We'll test his skill knowledge here, but a question from Churny Fire was, does the echoing poison effect work on enemies not poisoned by you? Is there like a radius limit?
Oh, so like if a druid or
Yeah, there's a
rogue
small radius limit
poisons
to it, but that
guys?
can be extended through things like tempering and that sort of thing. It will do any poisoned enemies on the screen.
Oh, nice. That sounds crazy.
That is cool.
So, yeah.
So you can kind of do a synergy, kind of
and
like
then,
how
we have
frost mages can
a question
freeze.
from Crawling Out of the Spiral. This one's a lore question specifically.
Oh, nice. I
Did
like lore.
Mephisto know about the veil between Sanctuary and the Spirit Realm, and like the corruption within the jungles during Diablo 2? Like, was he able to sense it during that time? I know we had talked about like the Spirit Realm being this pure and like untouched place. So.
Yeah, that part I'm a
we
little
can definitely assume that
unfamiliar
Mephisto
with.
knew there was something there.
Like we've never interacted with
When
the
it
Spirit
comes
Realm,
to
right?
the lore of Nahantu, there
Not
are
that I
a
know
lot
of.
of protection that happened during Mephisto's corruption. He wasn't able to break through the veil, so that is something that, you know, that's why it's so dire now. But definitely he had this feeling for sure.
Question for not MVP. How does the resource for the Spiritborn work?
Oh.
Do
Oh, yeah.
do they generate it like passively, or how does that work?
What is their
Sure.
resource?
The Spiritborn's primary resource is called Vigor.
Vigor.
It does not inherently recharge passively. You'll generate it by using your basic attacks. But sort of like the key with Spiritborn being very customizable, like one of the first choices
So it's
that you
kinda like
can make
Druid,
in your
right?
tree with your
Guessing?
basic attacks is you can
Or
sort
it
of like
builds up in a defense?
customize like how you will build the spirit beyond that, whether it's like by poisoning enemies or by blocking damage, that sort of thing, to really like kind of make the resource work the way you want it to work. And then later on,
Right.
there are also some uniques that will allow you to further customize sort of like how your build influences
Your
the resource
the
generation.
resource aspects.
Awesome. I
That
know
makes sense.
people, we just talked about the weapons and stuff, and there was
Vigor.
like follow-up questions of like,
Interesting.
are the Spiritborn only using two-handed weapons for this
Oh,
class?
I'm assuming they're stuck with a two-handed
Yes.
weapon. It sounds like.
The short answer.
There we go.
They are.
Okay, that was pretty straightforward.
The other question that we're getting is, is there like a special quest for before you can actually
class
start
quest?
a
I would make
Spiritborn
every
or
class
create
has like a
Spiritborn,
you know,
or are
those
there
class
quests that
quests
are
take
maybe
10
specific
minutes.
to
I think
the
they're cool
class itself?
thematically.
Yeah, well, we're going to definitely be introducing the class mechanic similarly to the way that we introduced it with the other classes. As far as the beginning of the story is concerned, you know, we really want to jump straight into continuing the chapter of hatred, right? Like what happened when Nayrel left. We want to jump right into it.
I'm
get
excited
right
for the
back
story.
into the
It's funny.
story, and
I
so
think
we're
out
gonna
of
pick
all
up
the
from
ARPGs,
perspective
Diablo is the one where
Nayrel
people
left
will
off.
come back almost just to experience
That
the
was
campaign
a
and
question
story
from
to see what's
Agar.
happening.
I forgot to
That's
throw out
cool.
the name. I do
you
want to
know?
give people
Maybe that's why they're
shout-outs when
trying to
they
do
actually
shorter
ask the name.
expansions. or
The Grim
quicker.
Knot asks, does the Spiritborn have ties maybe with the Witch Doctor in any type of way from Diablo
Oh.
3?
Not at all. When Brent is talking
Like that
about
answer.
creating something new, that's what we wanted to do with the Spiritborn. That also meant really diving into lore and figuring out a separation for freshness. We wanted to still bring in things that were familiar D2 and just lore in general that we know about. But when it
Yeah,
comes to
I
the
mean, Witch
Spiritborn
Doctor
class
or
and the traditions of the Spiritborn, they're very new. You get a chance to explore it in the game, and you'll see that they're very different.
Awesome. Azeron
like
Blood
she took
Moon
offense to that one.
asks, how much is the monk inspired into the gameplay of the Spiritborn?
You know, it's we always look back and we can find like a lot of reference, or we can be inspired by things we've made. But I think when you play the class, you'll see it's extremely different. It's so unique, it's so fresh, and it kind of carves its own space in our kind of lineup. That
I mean, it feels pretty monk to me.
after an inspirational point, maybe. Of
I mean,
looking at,
it's not
like,
a bad
martial
thing.
arts
I
at
think
just the
monk was a
core,
fun play
It
style.
just kind of goes off.
It's actually my main in Diablo 3.
Kind of redefines that space.
We're gonna. Oh, sorry. Go. No,
well,
go.
I definitely want to add to that. Is like I don't want to be shy about the fact that we know what works mechanically in the game, and so we're constantly looking at inspiration for the existing classes, for the new classes, on what works best. Take that inspiration and then like take a right turn and actually amplify it or take it into
Okay, that's a little bit better. I was like, you know,
very different.
the dashes,
I
the
know we have
punches, the combo
time
kicks,
for one more
the third
question.
hit.
This
That's
is
a monk thing. The third
question
hit did
for
something
everyone
different.
here. What is everyone's favorite spirit? I've already revealed mine, which is Jaguar. But like, what is everyone's favorite?
If no one
spirit
says
guardian
gorilla,
here
I'm gonna be sad.
for the
I actually
Spirit
like
Born?
playing the least
I can
popular.
start. I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna say 2. I love the Jaguar as well.
Jaguar,
But it's
okay.
just a little bit too chaotic for me, like inherently, and so I love to just like mix the eagle in there as well, just for a little bit more control, a little bit more like freedom.
Freedom, America.
Gorilla. I mean, when I saw it show up on screen, beat its chest, and it was just awesome. It was like, that's it.
I knew it.
Gorilla,
we're
nice,
like
my
wrestling
man.
buds, you know. We're
My man,
talk
the
about
gorilla.
wrestling all the time. I'm
one
not
seems
surprised.
cool.
Nick
I'm
is
excited to
about,
try that
like,
one out.
The gorilla is not surprised.
My favorite guardians are Quatli, the eagle, and Balazon, the centipede. I just love the poison, and it's sick. Like, it looks crazy.
Centipede it's very
Yeah, for
unique.
me,
That's a very
Jaguar,
unique one.
Like
for
it
sure.
started with that iconic piece. Yeah. Sorry, we're gonna have to share a little bit.
Hold on a second.
But like
We got one gorilla
the
guy, good.
movement,
All right.
it's such a pace changer for the game. Like once you get into it, it's got a very addictive flow, and so I'm all in on the Jaguar.
Well, it's awesome to hear everyone's favorite Spirit Guardians. I do want to thank you all for jumping in for this Q&A.
Oh, is
Before
that
we
it?
do close out the stream, we did
That was
want to
cool.
let everyone know that
What'd you guys
we'll be
think? I
sharing
don't know.
more about Vessel of Hatred
I thought
at
that was
Gamescom
pretty.
this
That
year
was
on
a
August
cool
20th.
release. I
But
wish
you'll actually have a chance to attend
You got
Gamescom
more
yourself and
details,
play the
like
Spiritborn
more
in person. We're actually
endgame,
sending
more
5
gameplay
lucky
maybe,
players
but
to Cologne,
besides that, you
Germany
know, I like
to play
the
the
art.
Spiritborn at our Gamescom
lore.
booth in person. Make sure to check out our Instagram
Oh,
at
nice.
Play Diablo and read
The
our blog
contest.
for
I don't
full
like
details
traveling,
on the
though.
contest after the show. Everyone on the Diablo team is incredibly excited for you to check out the new
Yeah,
class.
this is pretty
coming with
sweet.
Vessel of
I'm
Hatred on
excited.
October
I know
8th.
a lot of
And
people are probably
course,
upset.
You can pre-purchase the
But I
expansion
think it was
now. Stick around to check
excited.
out our Diablo creators, Rax,
And the good
Moody,
news is, we
Macro
already-
Bioboy, and Fame. They're actually upstairs right
You
now.
know, there's two
streaming
another
live
expansion
here at
like
Xbox
in the
Studios
works
with
because this one's
Spiritborn
pretty much
gameplay.
done.
Also, shout out to Xbox Studios for hosting us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And of course, you can check out Kind of Funny Games after the stream, where they'll be live chatting with Rod Ferguson,
Damn.
GM of the Diablo franchise.
It was a long.
Brent,
Oh, I guess it was an
Eleni,
hour.
Nick,
right?
Bjorn, thank you for being here to walk us through the Spiritborn. And thank you all and everyone at home for tuning in. We'll see you in Nahantu.
Nice. That was cool. Yeah, I mean, I really thought that was a cool. I'll just play this until it gets to the end. Yeah, I really liked that. I thought it was. I like the music. The class looks cool. Funny enough, yeah, I played a monk in Diablo 3. That was my main class because there was no other class that really I resonated with. This is like right up my alley. It'll make me feel kind of like Diablo 3. I like the combos, like, you know, the third hit, your third basic does something like, I think you can do like, it seems like you can do like a basic attack spec with this class. I mean, there's a lot you can do that with, but yeah, this was really cool to me. I'm really excited to explore Nahantu. Of course, I think everyone in season 6 is gonna play this class, so that'll be fun. Yeah, part of me almost wants to do the campaign with this class just to like hear his voice, the voice actor, hear his, you know, sometimes the dialogue's a little bit different. Yeah, what did you guys think? What your comments down below. If you were excited, or if maybe you were watching this playing Diablo yourself, or watching, whatever. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little video of me just reacting to this. This was pretty sweet. I was super excited to watch this. And yeah, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See you later.